Okay, welcome to the DryLink webinar on DryTAG, DryPHONE, and AirMAX BLE. A little bit about me. I'm Aaron Heinum. I've worked for Thermistore for 9 years, coming up on 10. Much of that time with Phoenix. I'm currently the business unit leader for Phoenix. I've always loved technology and innovation, and that is what has led me to DryLink. I'm so excited to roll out the products for the DryLink ecosystem, as I believe connected products are going to change our industry. Okay, just quick little bit of housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded, and we will send out the recording to everyone who registered for the webinar. My contact information will be up on a slide at the end of the presentation. And if you have questions as we go along, feel free to use the chat box to submit those. And then at the end of the webinar, Jenny will help me with the questions, and I will answer them to the best of my abilities. Okay, I'd like to start with why we're using Bluetooth technology and a little bit of history on remote monitoring and connected devices. Wi-Fi was the initial thing that people tried, and I can understand why. It's widely used in people's homes, but it's really meant for a more permanent application, and it's kind of expensive and cumbersome to use, so it's not really the right solution. Now, Bluetooth, on the other hand, as many people know, for situations where you're temporarily setting up, is much easier to use, and you don't have to set up a network, and the data just flows. So our system is based on Bluetooth. Okay, a few fun facts before we get started here. Phoenix has logged over 1 million hours of usage on the DryMAX XL in our cloud already. And second fun fact, Business Insider predicts that total business spending on IoT solutions will reach $6 trillion by 2021. And at Phoenix, our goal is to make the contractor's job simpler and more profitable. Okay, so here's the agenda. So I want to show you the 3 new products that we have launched for the DryLink ecosystem. Then I want to talk about the original products, which include the DryLink app, DryMAX XL, and the Drying Report. And then I want to show you how the new products add additional benefits to DryLink. And then lastly, I'll show you the future of DryLink. And then by the end of this webinar, you'll know the products in the DryLink ecosystem. You'll understand the value to the contractor of these products and this ecosystem, and you'll understand why the future of water damage is in connected products. Okay, so I'm quickly just going to show you the new products, and we'll go into a little more detail as we move along. But the 3 new products are DryTAG, which is a Bluetooth beacon with a built-in accelerometer that makes it different from other tracking devices, and I'll talk about that later. The AirMAX BLE is really, as you can see, it has the DryTAG, built in right here. So there's some advantages to doing that at the factory because the DryTAG will be linked up with that particular AirMAX. And then the DryPHONE, which think of the DryPHONE as like a hotspot. You put a DryPHONE wherever you want constant connection to all your Bluetooth devices. It's an optional item, and I'll get into more details about how the DryPHONE works. Okay, so now we're going to move on to showing you, the existing items in the ecosystem, and then we'll talk about the new products. So the existing or original items in the ecosystem included the Drying Report, and I'm just going to show you real quickly here. To access the Drying Report from the app, what you would do is you'd go into any job. So this is a Phoenix demo job, and you see there's a tab that says Drying Data. And in there, there's this Send Records button. If you click the Send Records button, you get a link, and you can share it using your phone's native sharing system. So you could share it by email or text or however you'd like to share it. And then I'm also just showing here in these other 2 slides that you can go into the account settings and go into your team, and you can change the logo. So you can customize the Drying Report to your company's information. So I'll start by showing the Drying Report as it exists today. So This, if you had a web link to a drying report, and this is a job that we did at the Paul Davis Drying School, and they allowed us permission to show this. This was done in January. You can see that you can customize it with your logo. Up here you have information about the customer and the job that you're doing. And then over here we have the start date, the end date, insurance, claim number, job duration. These are all it's just information about the job. You can see here that we have the ability to switch between imperial and metric measurements at any time. So if I switched from feet to meters, even on this job that's already completed, it calculates it. So I'm just going to put that back. And then over here we have the project summary and the full report buttons where you can get PDFs of this report. So if I scroll down, you're going to see we have the project summary, which is giving me all the different chambers on this job. And if I move from left to right, you can see there's the loss type. So we have category and class. Then you've got the wet square footage for the floor, ceiling, walls, and ceilings. And then with a percentage, it'll calculate the percentage wet. And then you have the volume of each particular chamber and then a job summary at the bottom. So continuing on with the job summary, you can see here we have an affected area readings tab where we're seeing the GPP in the different chambers. And as you would expect, it trends down over time. If I click on the moisture readings, this will be, moisture content or moisture material levels. And same thing in the different chambers trending over time, and you get a white circle when you reach the drying goal. We also have the outside and unaffected areas and what they're doing over time, and that's all part of the job summary. As I scroll down, you can see this is the total equipment used on the job by equipment type, so that you could use this summary for billing purposes. So for example, we had for axial air movers, we had 16 of those on the job for a total of 64 job days. And down here we have job notes and a description of whatever we typed in for the job notes. And then as we scroll down, we have the chambers. They're rolled up, but you can expand any of these chambers and you can see all the detail similar to what we had above. But when we look in here at the air readings, now what we have is we have the affected area in green, and there were 2 dehumidifiers in here, and we can see how those trend over time. Same thing with moisture readings. We've got the actual readings. We had 2 readings, one in a plaster wall and one in drywall, and over here they reached the drying goal. As you scroll down, you can see these are the individual readings that were taken by day. So normally you wouldn't see this many readings in a day most of the time, but here we have that. It shows you the date, the time, and the user. Somebody named theirs DryPHONE L, but it would put the username of the DryPHONE in here, and you can use this arrow to scroll over to see the rest of the information. As I scroll down, we're going to see same thing for the moisture readings. We have the individual readings by day, and when we get down to the equipment, now we're tracking at the serial number level. And the nice thing about smart equipment is it automatically puts all this information on the drying report for you. So you don't actually have to make any entries, and it's verified information. You don't have to take any pictures of the equipment to send in or anything like that. So this is basically what the drying report looks like. And then if you create the PDF, I'll show you what that looks like. It's very similar. It's just, you can see the charts. Obviously we can't click on tabs between them, so we've separated them out. They're a little bit smaller, but everything is there. And if we scroll down, there's the outside and unaffected chart, the equipment usage chart, then we get into the details by chamber. So that's what the drying report looks like if you used it today. Okay, now going back to my original PowerPoint, now I'd like to show you in the app how you would set up a job, put equipment on the job, and take a daily reading. So right here, we're showing the home screen of the app. So you can see we have a job section, an equipment section, settings, and alerts. And I'm going to show you mainly the jobs and the alerts today. So here we're going to go into a job, and you see in the lower left corner, there's a plus button. you can click on the plus to create a job. So I'm going to type in the job name here. So we have Phoenix Demo. And then when we get down to the address line, you can see as I type that Google autocomplete helps me out. I can type in the name of the insurance carrier, claim number, things of that type. And as I scroll down, you can add contacts, you can add job notes, but I'm going to click on next chambers because we're going to need at least one drying chamber for our job. So I'll just name the chamber test, and you select the category and class. Then you just enter the dimensions of the chamber. So I'll enter that here, and you can see the program is going to help you out and calculate all your square footage and your volume measurements and floors, walls, and ceilings for you. So all you have to do is enter the percentage wet, and it'll calculate the wet square footage for you. And then once you have all that, you can see at the bottom, it's creating the volume measurement for you and all of the different measurements. So now you could enter a chamber note if you wanted to. You could click and add more chambers, but we're just going to create jobs so that we just need one chamber for our purposes. So here's the job overview screen. And the next thing we want to do is add equipment to the job. So again, we go in the lower right and there's a plus button. When we click on that, the nice thing about smart equipment, you can see everything in range is just auto selected because it figures whatever it sees in range is what you have in the job and probably what you want to put in the chamber. You can unselect equipment or select non-smart equipment if you want. Then you have to tell it what chamber. We only have one, so we're going to hit this assign to all button. And now all the equipment is going to go in that one chamber. So we're going to hit finish at the bottom. And what you'll see is it's just all going to show up in the equipment tab on the Phoenix demo job. So there it is. So now we have equipment on the job and we have our job created. We're going to click on drying data and we're going to take our first daily readings. So again, lower right, click on that. I'm going to show you that you can actually, with smart equipment, if you have all smart equipment, you can backdate your readings and it'll pull that data from our cloud and it'll be actual readings. So if you couldn't make it to a job site, you could actually pull those readings. But for our purposes, we'll just accept the current date and time, well, at least when this was taken. So it pulls the outside weather conditions for you. Then for the unaffected, I'm going to show you how you can make the unaffected smart, but for right now, we have to manually enter it. So we'll hit done. And then once we, oops, let me click done. Okay. And then once we have that, you can see we have test 2 units. That's our chamber test. We named it test. And when we click, it just automatically pulls in all of our smart readings. So here's our 2 dehumidifiers in the chamber with the inlet and the 2 outlet readings. We get a warning on the grain depression because we just turned the dehumidifier on. You wouldn't normally do that. You can see you can add an HVAC reading, and I can show you how to make that reading smart as well. And there was a way to add chamber notes as well. So we click done, and now we can see all of our air readings. And then now let's go to the moisture readings. Now we don't have any way to do smart readings right now, but we're going to just set up a couple of moisture points anyway. So we go back into our test chamber and we're going to add moisture points. So once we click on add moisture point, we just select. I'm just going to say that we're going to have them in the wall. I'll set up 2 in drywall. So you can hit save and add another. It gives us a drying target. You can change the default for that. So it names it wall 1 drywall. So I'm gonna just do the exact same thing. And so it'll name that one wall 2 drywall. And the third one, I'm gonna select wood instead of drywall just to show a different material. And then I will hit save and add. And then we will move back to actually collecting the readings. So these are manual again because I'm going to show you how to make this smart in the future, but we'll just enter. I'll put 20 for drywall. So we haven't reached our target. We're just starting. And this could be just whatever your meter reading is. They have different scales. So it just kind of scales to whatever your meter says. So we enter that information and now we have all the readings for moisture points. So we could add another one, but we're just going to select done. So now we have all of our drying data for our job. Now, there's one other thing I'll just quickly show you. There's graphs for your dehumidifiers that you can look at, inlet, RH, temp and RH, and GPP and things like that. But more importantly here, we have all of our air readings and we have all of our moisture readings. So now we're done. We have taken all of our daily readings for the day. There's our equipment on the job. And there's the next one is our overview. So that is how you take your daily readings, or well, set up your job, add equipment, and take your daily readings. Okay, so now we've looked at the drying report, we've looked at the app, and the last thing that was the original equipment for the DryLink ecosystem was a DryMAX XL, the first data logging dehumidifier with Bluetooth. It also is 2 in the space of 1 extra large dehumidifier. It has XL performance. There was the free DryLink app, which is still available. And like I mentioned, 1 million hours of runtime in our cloud. Okay, so now I want to get into more specifics about the new products. So the DryTAG. When I say it's different than other tracking tags, I'll show you why. So it's a Bluetooth beacon with a built-in accelerometer. That accelerometer is really important. It's an additional feature which allows us to tell if the equipment is on or off because it senses movement, which can be as subtle as vibration. So when you turn on an air mover or any other piece of equipment with a motor, this DryTAG will know and it will start keeping track of the hours. So you can do some really cool things with that. You can also, what you can do is if the equipment is turned off, we can give you a notification so that you'd have to have the DryPHONE to do that, but you can get a notification in real time so that you can take action rather than coming in the next day and maybe the homeowner says, I turned it off for a little while. Maybe the insurance company says, hey, why is your job taking so long? So the DryTAG with the accelerometer can help you with that problem. It also provides you the last known location on a map. So every time it connects to your cell phone, we get the GPS coordinates and we put that in our cloud. It automatically records usage and the serial number and sends it to the drying report. So like I showed you on that drying report, you don't have to make those entries. It enters its own information. You can also attach this to any brand of equipment, and there's no monthly usage fee for this device and for the last known location and all those other features I just mentioned. So the DryTAG Bluetooth beacon has a MSRP of $49. We do have a special going on right now that actually ends at the end of the week where you buy 4 and you get a 5th one for free. So that's the DryTAG. Okay, and this is just showing some screens where you can get notifications, and you can actually get a notification. This is showing the equipment turned off, but you can also get a notification if it's offline. This says dehumidifier, but you can get it for DryTAG. So there's a difference. If for some reason it can't connect, maybe the power went off, you get a separate notification there. This is showing when you're out of range. This DryTAG is attached to an AirMAX and it's out of range, so it shows its last known location on a map. And this is just showing you, like we saw, that this information from the DryTAGs can be automatically transferred to your drying report. Okay, so Larry Carlson is going to show us just how easy it is to attach a DryTAG to any piece of equipment. Now here we're going to attach it to an axial air mover, but you really can attach it to any equipment. And we have guidelines that for all Phoenix equipment, we have recommendations on where to put it. And then on competitive equipment, we give you some things to think about. We don't tell you exactly where to put it, but we do give you some tips. Now you can see that's really it. So that's installing a DryTAG on a piece of equipment. Okay, and now that I've showed you the DryTAG, I want to show you a little bit about the alerts that you can get from a job site when using all of this smart equipment. So you can see there's an alerts tab down here, and when we click in here, we're going to see all of this. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Let me start that one over. This is going to be how you attach the DryTAG to a piece of equipment in the app. So we attached it physically, but now we have to connect it in the app. So what we're going to do here is we are going to go into the app, and we're going to create a piece of equipment. So I told you we could attach it to competitive equipment. So we'll call this DE Velo 24, and let's see, we have to say it's an air mover. It is a low profile, and we'll put in the manufacturer information as well as the model. So you have to do this when you buy it and attach to equipment. You have to do this once, and we have a button that says save and add another to help to make this process easier. And once you have it done, you can hit save and finish, because we're just going to do one piece of equipment, and then it'll take you to the equipment tab. And I want to just scroll down and show you, here's DE Velo 24, here's all the information we typed in. And now all we have to do is we have to associate this DryTAG with this virtual piece of equipment to link them together so that it always reports. So you can see we have the blue bar at the bottom, it says new DryTAG discovered. This, usually there's just one here, but it's the one with the most signal, and we'll select that. And once we select it and click add, now we just go find our DE Velo 24 piece of equipment and associate it. And once that's done, so now we've done it. You can see it's added. So we'll never have to do that again. It'll always report in correctly. Okay, the next smart equipment that we have that's brand new is the AirMAX BLE. The nice thing about the AirMAX BLE is the DryTAG is pre-installed at the factory. You can see it's right over here. And it allows for no setup in the DryLink app. So all that stuff I just showed you, when you add it to competitive equipment, we do it at the factory for you. And so when you get it, it pops up in your app on a blue bar that says, hey, we just found a new piece of equipment. And then once you say, yes, that's mine, it adds the correct serial number and model and all that information for you. So the DryTAG is already associated in the cloud and with the serial number. So you get all the additional benefits of the DryTAG, plus preloading all this information, no monthly fees. The AirMAX BLE built in with DryTAG, the MSRP is $349 compared to $323 for the current AirMAX. So you can save a little money too by buying it already built into the AirMAX. This screen is just showing the how the AirMAX BLE looks. Because it's a Phoenix piece of equipment, we have this nice picture. We show you it's got a DryTAG on it. Over here, you can see here's all the information that automatically loads for you as we scan it at the factory. Okay, and the third piece of new equipment that we've launched is the DryPHONE, which allows for remote monitoring and real-time notifications. And so receiving alerts in real time can be very beneficial on the job. As I mentioned, if equipment is turned off, you can also get other notifications that we'll go into more detail on that have to do with how the job is progressing. You can also reduce homeowner contact and PPE usage in the current environment, as you could take your daily readings remotely. So homeowners might appreciate that you don't have to come to their house as often with this system. So you can actually enter these daily readings remotely with the DryPHONE and smart equipment. You can also prioritize your on-site visits based on the remote monitoring. So if you're monitoring multiple jobs and you see like, hey, this one's not proceeding as expected, rather than have your tech just drive around and find that out later, you can actually take action on a job that's having an issue. And then also just want to point out this is the Xactimate code for remote monitoring. It pays $55 a day. So the price on the DryPHONE is $349, but that includes 1 year worth of data. So what it is it's $199 for the phone, $49 for the combination of the activation fees and the heavy duty case, and then $99 for 1 year worth of data. So that's all the data. So there's no monthly bill. And that's all the data that is collected from any Bluetooth equipment in range and transferred up to our cloud. In Canada, you can see that it's $399 because the data is a little bit more expensive. So now in year 2, if you want to continue, you'd have to pay another $99 for a year's worth of data. And if you're in Canada, you'd have to pay another $149 for an additional year's worth of data. Okay, so now what I want to do is show you how to set up alerts if you're doing remote monitoring. Okay, so you see we have the Phoenix demo job, so we're going to use that one. That's one we've been using, and you can see that it says job status alerts are disabled. So what we're going to do is we're going to click into there, and we are going to enable job status alerts. Now you get a few warnings. It says place the DryPHONE in range of the equipment, so it can only transmit things that are in range. Then connect DryPHONE to a power source, because if you don't, it's not going to make it through a job, because you know your cell phone isn't going to last 3 days. Then you need to leave the DryPHONE on the job site, and then you can click here if you don't want to keep seeing that message. Okay, so now you'll get one final warning that says, you know, plug in your equipment, make sure you're within 30 to 40 feet, and to establish a connection, and click OK. And once you are satisfied that you have that and you click OK, you're going to see that all of the smart equipment in range is already selected. So you can unselect items that you may not want to monitor, but we figure in most cases you're going to want to monitor everything within range. Now, if something's not in range, you'd have to, you know, get it in range or get a second DryPHONE. So now you can see that we have 6 units we're monitoring and 9 recipients. You can go in and select which recipients receive alerts, because there's different types of alerts. So for these alerts here, which is the job site alerts, you can see there's DryTAG offline, and you can set the duration. So that would mean like, hey, it hasn't reported in. Equipment turned off. If somebody physically turns it off, we're going to send you an alert right away. Dehumidifier offline, we can give you a notification there. There's thresholds for high and low RH and temperatures. You can set any of these thresholds to suit your needs. And then we have this chamber GPP slow to decrease. So that has a duration and a threshold. So it's saying, hey, if in 12 hours we haven't decreased by 10 GPP, can you let me know? And then at the bottom you see there's a chamber drying goal reach that has to do with DrySense. It's a product I'll talk about later. That has to do with the moisture points, and that we can tell you when you've reached your drying goal. So these are job status alerts. So if we go back here now, we can see the ones with the bells have alerts enabled. The blue bells actually have alerts that you haven't looked at yet. So that's indications for alerts that you need to take a look at. So that is job status alerts having to do with the DryPHONE. Okay, there are also additional alerts that we have. There are equipment alerts that we have, and then we have job kind of management alerts and these alerts can go to different people. So like equipment alerts, you might want to send those to service people or maintenance people. And the job management alerts would be like the job is started, job is completed. That might be somebody in the office that's more involved with the bookkeeping or something like that. So we can take a look at these different alerts and see how they work. So the equipment alerts, you can see again for a service person or a maintenance person. You again can select your recipients. There's a filter change alert where you can set how many hours you want the filter life to be, and then you'll receive a notification. Not connected, and then a duration, it says 20 days. That's trying to give you an indication that maybe a smart piece of equipment has been lost or left behind because you haven't scanned that piece of equipment in that many days. Then there's the low battery for DryTAG and DrySense. And then there's the system protection notification, which is if the dehumidifier is in too hot of an environment, it will shut itself down to protect itself. Or if it's low on refrigerant, that is another reason why it would be in the system protection mode. So those are some of the, and then there's the reservoir full notification, and that is having to do with the pump system. So you could have a kinked hose, you could have a float switch that's mechanically stuck in the up position, or you could have a faulty pump. So those are all the equipment alerts. So then next we'll look at job management alerts. And like I said, this could be more for somebody back at the office. You can select your recipients. So there's a notification for job completion. There's a notification for new job started, and then a job duration. So if a job's taking too long, so you can select what the duration is, and that way you can be notified, hey, this job seems to be taking too long. So those are all the alerts that are available to you. And the only one that's required to use the DryPHONE is the job status alerts. Okay, I wanted to run over some of the values to the contractors. So we have this free DryLink app with an amazing drying report. You can save time taking readings for sure, especially with smart equipment. You can do remote monitoring with alerts and billing in Xactimate. There's inventory tracking, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. We're going to offer a more advanced inventory tracking solution in the future, but you saw what we have today. And then, it's simple and intuitive, especially for those who do everything in apps or on cell phones. Okay, now I want to talk about what's coming in 2020. These are products that will be coming out soon. We have DrySense. So this is a moisture content sensor. So it has pins to push into drywall, and it has an attachment that allows you to use screws to drive into other materials to sense the moisture material level and report automatically by Bluetooth into our system. We also have DryMAX BLE coming out. This will add the Bluetooth functionality and data logging to the original DryMAX. And then we have DryTAG RH. And what's really cool about DryTAG RH is it's kind of like DryTAG, except it adds Bluetooth functionality to any dehumidifier, because this part here is a temperature and relative humidity sensor. So it adds all of the functionality of DryTAG and temperature and humidity. Now, one difference is between this and like the DryMAX or the DryMAX XL, the DryTAG does not have data logging capabilities. It'll give you smart readings when you show up, but if you want it to stream data constantly, you would have to use the DryPHONE for that part of it. So I really do feel strongly that the future is connected products, and I want to talk about why I feel that way. We just showed you the upcoming DryLink ecosystem, including DryMAX BLE, DrySense, and DryTAG RH. But in addition to that, we're looking into the advanced inventory tracking function, and what that will do is, the idea is that if you have a DryPHONE in your warehouse, and if you have a DryPHONE in your vehicle, these are all optional things, but if you did have those, we could keep track of your inventory and tell you where it is. So because it's Bluetooth, as soon as it reports into a new DryPHONE, it will know where it is. So if it's in your warehouse and the DryPHONE in your warehouse sees it, and then all of a sudden it doesn't, and it's now on a vehicle and the DryPHONE in your truck sees it, it can change its location automatically to show it in the truck. And if it's on the job, we'll know it's on the job. So there could be some cool things that come out of that. For example, we could, in theory, be able to tell you when you leave a job, if you left something behind, we ought to be able to know that through the inventory in your truck compared to what we know you had on the job. So that's something in the future that we're looking into now. Also, integration with other software vendors. I just want to make it clear that we're not trying to replace the software packages from NextGear, from Encircle, from Restoration Manager. We're trying to work with them and add smart equipment into their software packages. So if you're thinking, hey, I already have a software package and this is cool, but I don't want to just switch all my operations to what you're doing. I'd like the data to just flow into what I'm using today. That's what we're currently working on. Also, integration with other equipment vendors. We want to be an open supplier to the market in terms of choices for equipment. So, for example, if you want to use a Delmhurst meter, I'm just using them as an example, and they have a Bluetooth meter, we're open to integrate with Delmhurst, and that way you could use that vendor's meter. So we're not trying to lock anybody out of the ecosystem. Okay, and with all that said, I just want to tell you that we have a special offer today. So anybody that's on the webinar and would like a free DryTAG to test out, all you have to do is send an email to me that says free DryTAG offer, and obviously you got to give me your contact information and where to ship it, but we'll be happy to ship you one. And then you can just download our free app and see how it works for yourself. Okay, so now I'm going to open it up for questions and comments. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to put this up here, which is my contact information. So if you have any questions, you can email me directly at eheinemannthermostore.com. And there's also a link on here. It's on our website where you can find how-to videos, DryLink training, quick start guides, all of that kind of information on our website. And just again, this webinar is recorded and we'll be sharing with everybody that registered today. So now I'd like to just check with Jenny and see if we have any questions that I can try and answer today. So
great. Yeah, thank you, Aaron. We had a couple questions come in.
All right.
The first one is the percent wet an estimation?
Yes. So, you can do it different ways. You can either enter an estimation of the percentage wet and then we'll calculate the square footage, or you can directly enter the square footage yourself if you'd rather do that.
Okay, and then we have a second question is how long do the batteries last in the DryTAG?
Great question. I should have covered that and I neglected to. It's guaranteed for 1 year. We think we'll probably do better than that, but 1 year is guaranteed.
Great. Another question is, can you add a monitoring visit from a previous day without having the Bluetooth equipment?
You can, but it's a manual entry. So in other words, if you weren't there and you're entering a manual entry, I guess it would be kind of a guess. Whereas if you have smart equipment and you enter it from a previous day, that data is pulled from our cloud. So it's an actual reading. But yes, you can go and enter a reading from a previous day. Like maybe you wrote it, you forgot to enter it, but you did write it down. You can do that.
Okay. We'll just wait a few more moments for anybody who's typing in their questions. Right now we don't have any other questions, but we'll just wait a few more moments.
Sure, no problem. And I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to the webinar. And yeah, I'm super excited about this. I really feel in 5 years, I think connected equipment is what everybody will be using. So it's an exciting time. It's going to save time for contractors and ultimately save money for contractors. Okay, and also if anybody thinks of any other questions, just feel free to email me directly and I'll answer them that way.
We have one more question that came in. Are the DryTAG batteries replaceable?
Yes, the batteries for the DryTAG are a coin cell battery. They're a little bit bigger than like I forget what the number is, than the standard one, but you can get them for $1 a piece off of Amazon. So they're just a coin cell battery. They're just a little thicker than the normal ones that I see.
Okay, thank you everybody for all your great questions. I don't see any more coming in this time, but as you see, Aaron's contact information is up on the screen, so please feel free to shoot him any questions that you had during this webinar and he'll be happy to help you. And with that, have a great day, everybody.
Okay, thanks everyone.